This is Silver the One here, and today I'm bringing you a what if video. What if Izuku had the powers of Godzilla? If you could, please like, subscribe, and click the notification bell so you'll be notified when the next part comes out. That's all for now. Let's get started with the video. Izuku Midoriya, age 04, Godzilla hybrid AU, age theory. Age 0 to 1, the birth of a hybrid. Izuku Midoriya was born different. From the moment his tiny eyes opened to the world, there was a faint luminescent blue glow in them, pulsing softly like the heartbeat of some otherworldly creature. His fingers ended not in soft infant nails, but in slightly curved claws, and small patches of greenish scales ran along his arms and back. His mother Inko gazed down at him with a mixture of awe and fear, careful not to touch the tiny dorsal plates protruding from his back. Even at a few days old, he was startlingly strong. A simple stretch could knock over small objects, and his cries sometimes produced tremors in the floorboards. The doctors had never seen anything like it, and they muttered quietly to each other, debating the classification of his mutation. Inko, however, barely noticed the whispers. She held her son close, whispering softly, "It's okay, my baby. I'm here. I'll always protect you." Every day was a lesson in vigilance. Even a sneeze could ignite a small burst of heat energy, singeing the edge of a blanket or leaving a faint scorch mark on the wooden floor. Inko adapted quickly, lining the nursery with reinforced materials and keeping water nearby at all times. Her days were spent watching him, her eyes scanning constantly for the slightest flicker of energy in his glowing eyes. And yet, despite the danger, she never treated him as something to be feared. From the beginning, she nurtured his sense of humanity. She held him when he cried, laughed with him when he cooed, and whispered stories of heroes who used their powers for good, planting the first seeds of aspiration in her son's heart. Age 1 to 2, early exploration and play with Bakugo. By his first birthday, Izuku's powers had become slightly more controllable, though still unpredictable. His small body already possessed strength beyond his age, and tiny dorsal plates jutted further along his spine. He was still mostly half-human in appearance, but even his soft baby features carried the hint of something ancient and powerful lurking beneath the surface. It was around this time that he first met Katsuki Bakugo, a neighborhood boy with fiery energy and an unshakable confidence. Bakugo was fascinated by Izuku from the start. While other children kept their distance, wary of Izuku's glowing eyes and small clawed fingers, Bakugo saw opportunity for play and challenge. Their early games were simple: races across the backyard, crawling contests, gentle pushing matches. Izuku, even in his tiny form, was strong enough to lift Bakugo effortlessly, but he learned to modulate his power to avoid hurting his friend. Bakugo, in turn, admired the strength he saw in Izuku, sparking a rivalry built on respect and fascination rather than fear or malice. During these playful afternoons, Inko watched from a safe distance, constantly alert. She noticed how Izuku's energy pulses grew stronger when excited or frustrated, causing small bursts of heat from his dorsal plates. She would intervene gently when necessary, redirecting the energy safely. "Careful, Izuku," she would say, guiding his hands away from flammable objects. "You have to be gentle." Age 2, Introduction to the Mutant Control Program. Around his second birthday, Inko enrolled Izuku in a specialized program for children with dangerous mutation quirks. The Quirk Mutant Control Program was designed to teach control, precision, and safe use of quirk abilities from a young age. Izuku's first day was overwhelming. The center was filled with children whose quirks were equally unpredictable. Some had elemental powers, others could alter their physical forms in ways that were difficult to manage. Trainers were patient, guiding each child carefully, emphasizing control over raw power. For Izuku, the lessons were tailored to his hybrid physiology: control exercises, aiming small sparks of atomic energy at targets without burning the floor; obstacle courses, crawling, climbing, and moving objects to build precision and spatial awareness; focus and breathing, techniques to manage energy surges, particularly when his dorsal plates pulsed with excitement or stress. Izuku thrived in the program. He quickly understood that discipline and restraint amplified his power, and the trainers praised his focus. By practicing controlled bursts of energy, he began to gain confidence in using his quirk safely. Age 3, Social Awareness and Early Prejudice. Despite his controlled environment, Izuku and Inko occasionally ventured into the outside world. It was during one of these outings that Izuku first encountered prejudice directly. A small group of adults, members of an anti-mutant organization, spotted Izuku in his half-hybrid form. Their eyes widened at his glowing blue gaze and small dorsal plates. Whispering and jeering, they called him a monster, an abomination, a danger to society. Izuku, only 3 years old, felt confusion and hurt. The words stung, not because he did not understand, but because he had always tried to be careful, to behave, to be good. His small fists curled and his dorsal plates began to pulse faintly in alarm. Inko knelt beside him, placing a gentle hand on his clawed fingers. She looked at the anti-mutant group with calm authority before turning her gaze to her son. Her voice was firm yet loving. No matter how you look or how dangerous people say you can be, I know that you're my son, and I will love you no matter what. Her words wrapped around him like a protective shield. In that moment, Izuku felt the first true sense of certainty, that his strength and appearance did not define his worth. He could be powerful and still be good. This incident left a lasting impression. From it, Izuku developed a mindset that would guide him throughout life. Mutant quirk users might be feared, but through control, morality, and heroism, they could earn respect. Age 3 to 4, first Titan form and advanced training. By the age of 4, Izuku's quirk had matured enough to manifest in a more dramatic way. One day, during a simulated emergency at the Mutant Control Program, a small accident threatened to tip over a stack of heavy equipment onto a younger child. In a surge of instinctive power, Izuku's body grew rapidly, reaching 6 feet tall, a towering, toddler-sized Titan form. His dorsal plates flared with energy, and a faint, concentrated atomic burst shot from his mouth, startling everyone in the room but leaving no one harmed. The trainers quickly intervened, guiding him to focus and stabilize. "Good control, Izuku," one said, clapping him gently on the back. "Now let's practice regulating that energy so it only flows when you intend it to." From that day on, short bursts of Titan form became part of his training. He learned duration limits. Full transformation could only last minutes at first. Energy regulation. Atomic bursts needed careful modulation to prevent accidental damage. Controlled play. He and Bakugo began experimenting with gentle Titan form exercises under strict supervision, like moving large blocks or performing friendly sparring matches. Despite the growing power, Izuku never lost his gentle nature. He played carefully, shared victories with his peers, and began forming friendships based on mutual respect and admiration. Daily life highlights. Even with all this training, Izuku's early years were full of wonder and curiosity. Exploration, crawling across backyards and reinforced floors, testing his growing strength. Learning emotions, experiencing joy, frustration, and curiosity, often expressed through pulsing dorsal plates or small sparks. Interactions. Friends and peers learned to approach him with respect, knowing he was powerful yet disciplined. Bakugo rivalry. Their friendly competition continued, shaping both boys' understanding of strength and control. Bakugo constantly tried to match or surpass Izuku's power, planting seeds for their lifelong rivalry built on mutual respect rather than bullying. Key lessons and growth by age 4. By the time Izuku reached his 4th birthday, several core aspects of his personality and abilities were established. 1. Physical growth. Titan form at 6 feet tall, with atomic breath weak but functional. Strength and durability above average, even in hybrid form. 2. Emotional development. Learned to balance instinctive reactions with control. Embraced his humanity despite outwardly monstrous traits. 3. Social awareness. Witnessed prejudice but learned that respect could be earned through careful action and restraint. Developed friendships and early rivalries that valued skill, ethics, and heroism. 4. Mindset. Power versus responsibility. Even small actions have consequences. Humanity inside the monster. One's appearance does not define moral worth. Respect through restraint. Discipline and controlled action inspire admiration rather than fear. 5. Training milestones. Controlled atomic bursts in exercises. Short-duration Titan form transformations under supervision. Learn to play and interact safely with peers in hybrid form. By the end of age 4, Izuku was a child unlike any other, a half-Kaiju hybrid whose power was already legendary in his small circle, yet tempered by love, careful training, and an early moral compass. The experiences of these 4 years, the controlled play, early rivalry, prejudice faced, and guidance from Inko and the mutant control program shaped him into a hero in the making, ready to take his first steps toward UA and the larger world of pro heroes. Chapter 2, Ages 5 to 7, Early Heroism and the Rise of Gojira. The sun hung low over the quiet suburban streets, casting long shadows across the playground where a small group of children played. Izuku Midoriya, though only 5, towered slightly over his peers even in his half-hybrid form. His dorsal plates glimmered faintly in the sunlight, greenish scales rippling as he crouched, observing. Today was different. Today, he could sense tension in the air. His heightened senses, refined through 2 years of mutant control exercises, picked up the rapid footsteps of children being bullied. He stiffened. He didn't need to see them clearly to know someone was in danger. Across the playground, a younger mutant boy, no more than 4, was cornered by a group of older kids. Their hands grabbed at his coat, their voices harsh and cruel. "You think you're special, huh?" one sneered. "With your stupid glowing hands? Nobody wants mutants like you here." Izuku's chest tightened. He crouched lower, ready to act. Beside him, Bakugo, who had been playing catch with a small ball, froze as well. His sharp eyes scanned the scene, and though his usual fiery demeanor remained, there was an unmistakable spark of respect in his gaze. Izuku stood and straightened, his small dorsal plates gleaming faintly. He didn't need to shout. His presence alone was enough to make the bullies pause, uncertainty flickering across their faces. "Leave him alone," Izuku said softly, but the calm intensity in his voice carried weight far beyond his 5 years. The bullies laughed nervously, thinking him small, but when he flexed his hands slightly, faint sparks of atomic energy danced across his fingertips, enough to scorch the dirt beneath him. Fear flashed across their eyes. Bakugo, standing beside him now, grinned and nodded. "Go for it, Gojira," he said, the nickname flowing easily, full of respect rather than mockery. It stuck immediately. "Show him what happens when someone messes with your friends." Izuku exhaled slowly, keeping control of the power surging within him. He didn't want to harm anyone unnecessarily. Instead, he stomped one foot on the ground, sending a minor tremor through the earth. The bullies staggered, losing their balance, and Izuku followed with a short, controlled burst of atomic breath. Not enough to burn them, just enough to push them back and leave a faint blue scorch on the ground between them and the younger boy. "See, come on, we're leaving," one of the older kids shouted, fear overtaking their earlier bravado. They ran, glancing back at the small hybrid boy whose eyes glowed faintly in warning. Izuku exhaled and knelt down beside the young mutant, offering a gentle smile. "Are you okay?" he asked. The little boy nodded, eyes wide in awe. "Thank you, Gojira," he whispered, repeating Bakugo's nickname. Bakugo elbowed Izuku lightly in the side. "See? I told you, they respect you, even if they're scared. You're already earning it." Training and discovery. After the incident, Izuku's focus returned to control. Even at 5, he was learning that strength without precision could be dangerous. At home, Inko guided him through exercises designed to refine his atomic bursts and strengthen his hybrid form safely. "You're getting stronger every day," Inko said, adjusting his posture as he practiced a controlled short-range blast. "Remember, even your own body can get hurt if you push too hard." Izuku nodded, feeling the tingle of energy in his chest. He had started experimenting with using atomic energy in hybrid form, but even small releases caused strain on his human body. It was a delicate balance, enough to train, not enough to damage himself. One afternoon, while experimenting in their backyard, he directed a small, controlled blast at a stack of reinforced training blocks. The energy arced neatly, breaking the top layers without sending debris flying. He grinned, feeling the satisfying pulse of power under his control. Bakugo, watching, whistled low. "Not bad, Gojira. You're learning fast. Soon, nothing will stand in your way." Izuku laughed softly, a rumbling sound passing through his chest from his partially hybrid vocal cords. "Thanks, Bakugo, but I want to be careful. I don't want to hurt anyone." Mutant control lessons. At 6, Izuku's training at the mutant control program intensified. Exercises included precision atomic blasts, shooting small sparks at moving targets without collateral damage; hybrid form endurance, maintaining partial Titan form for longer durations while keeping physical strain minimal; team drills, protecting fellow mutant children from simulated hazards and learning to anticipate danger using his senses. His instructors marveled at his progress. Even in hybrid form, he learned quickly to gauge his energy, regulate the intensity, and adapt to changing scenarios. His atomic breath, though still limited, had become much more precise. One day, during a particularly intense simulation, Izuku had to prevent a fellow student from falling into a deep pit simulated with padded materials. As he moved, his dorsal plates pulsed, his tail, still small, balanced him, and his senses picked up subtle shifts in the environment that allowed him to react nearly before the accident occurred. He caught the student just in time, a small blast of atomic energy absorbing the shock. Instructors clapped. Remarkable control, Izuku. Your instincts are improving daily. Protecting mutant kids from prejudice. Outside the training center, Izuku also faced real societal challenges. Anti-mutant groups sometimes protested near the center, their chants sharp and accusatory. You're dangerous. Mutants like you shouldn't be allowed to walk freely, they shouted, waving banners. Izuku, though still young, understood the stakes. He had seen firsthand the fear people held, and he refused to let that fear turn into harm for his friends. Standing tall in his hybrid form, he positioned himself between the protesters and the younger mutants. His dorsal plates flared, and a faint rumble emanated from his chest. Leave them alone, he said, calm but firm. I won't let you hurt anyone here. The protesters faltered, unsure how to respond to a 5 or 6-year-old boy standing half kaiju and radiating controlled energy. Slowly, muttering, they retreated. Bakugo stood at Izuku's side, grinning. See, Gojira, even the scared adults know you're not to be messed with. Izuku's chest swelled with a quiet pride. Not because he could scare them, but because he had protected his friends without hurting anyone unnecessarily. Growth of Titan form awareness. At 7, Izuku's Titan form began to develop more fully. He could hold partial transformation for longer periods, and small bursts of atomic breath had increased in strength. He discovered early that training in water helped regulate his energy output. Submerging himself in a controlled pool allowed him to experiment safely with more powerful blasts, his hybrid body supported by the buoyancy, reducing strain on his human form. Inko watched these sessions closely, ensuring safety. Remember, Izuku, water doesn't make you invincible. Always control your energy. Izuku nodded, splashing a small wave with atomic energy, laughing. Bakugo, at the pool's edge, clapped loudly. Now that's impressive, Gojira. You're like a real monster hero. The nickname had stuck firmly now, no longer playful but honorific, a recognition of Izuku's strength, restraint, and moral compass. A discovery of heightened senses. Also around this age, Izuku began refining his natural hybrid senses. Trainers encouraged him to notice subtle vibrations, air currents, and changes in sound, laying the groundwork for his nearly precognitive abilities later. In simple drills, he could anticipate the movement of others in the room or detect when a target was about to move before it happened, allowing him to react almost instinctively. These early exercises became part of his daily routine, even at home. Bakugo often participated, running obstacle courses or mock battles with Izuku. The two boys were growing together, not just in physical strength, but in mutual understanding and respect. Chapter 3, ages 8-10. The Burden of Power. 8 years old, power awakens. By the time Izuku turned 8, his Titan form had grown to a solid 7 feet tall, the spines on his back thicker and glowing faintly when his energy stirred. He wasn't the small, clumsy half-mutant boy anymore. He was becoming something greater, something that made even trained adults pause when he entered a room. At the Mutant Control Program, the instructors introduced him to longer-range atomic blast drills. Thick reinforced barriers lined the training grounds, specifically designed to withstand heavy quirk outputs. Inhale, hold, release in bursts, not waves, one instructor coached. Izuku focused, chest swelling as blue-white light radiated from between his teeth. With a guttural roar, a beam of raw atomic energy burst forward, striking the barrier and shaking the air with its intensity. When the smoke cleared, the barrier was cracked, glowing faintly at the edges. He collapsed to one knee, coughing. The energy output had been too much for his hybrid body to maintain. Bakugo rushed to his side. You idiot, you're supposed to control it, not blow your lungs out. Izuku smiled weakly, wiping sweat from his brow. I'm learning. I have to keep pushing if I want to master it. Bakugo frowned, but there was admiration in his sharp eyes. You're insane, Gojira, but damn if you're not amazing. First real confrontation with adults. Later that year, while walking home from training with Bakugo, they stumbled upon a scene that made Izuku's blood boil. A group of anti-mutant protesters had cornered a pair of mutant children, siblings with small wings sprouting from their backs. The adults were shouting cruel things, one even shoving the younger sibling roughly. You're not human. You're dangerous. Izuku stepped forward, his spines lighting up faintly. He was taller now, more imposing, and his eyes glowed with restrained fury. Stop it. His voice rumbled low, carrying the weight of something much older than an 8-year-old boy. The adults froze, staring up at him. He was still just a child, but his monstrous presence made their words falter. One of them tried to sneer. What are you supposed to be? A lizard freak? This isn't your business. Izuku's spines flared brighter, and his chest hummed with energy. It is my business, he growled. If you want to hurt someone, you'll go through me first. The adults backed away quickly, muttering under their breath, but they did not dare challenge him. The younger siblings looked at Izuku with wide eyes, tears drying on their faces. Thank you, Mr. Gojira. Bakugo clapped Izuku's shoulder. Told you, that name fits. You're a wall, and people can't break walls. Izuku smiled softly, but deep inside he understood the burden. Every time he intervened, he was showing the world what his kind of power could be. That responsibility weighed heavily, but he bore it proudly. 9 years old, training in water. At 9, Izuku discovered just how much water amplified his abilities. During an extended training session near a secure coastal facility, he waded into the ocean. Waves broke against his hybrid form, but he did not struggle. Instead, he felt at home. Submerged, he unleashed a controlled atomic blast. The energy pulsed outward in a sphere of blinding blue light, the water dispersing the force evenly. He surfaced, gasping but exhilarated. Ha! Bakugo cheered from the shore. You're like a damn sea monster. The ocean doesn't even slow you down. Izuku shook off water from his spines, laughing. It actually helps. The water takes some of the strain off my body. If I push too far, it won't hurt as much. From then on, he incorporated ocean training into his schedule, learning to move, fight, and blast underwater. His instructors marveled at the discovery, noting that his aquatic adaptability made him even more versatile than expected. But it wasn't without risk. One miscalculated burst drained him completely, leaving him drifting in the water until Bakugo dove in to drag him back to shore. You nearly fried yourself. You idiot, Bakugo scolded, coughing as he pulled him up the sand. Izuku weakly chuckled. I guess I still have limits. Then we'll push those limits until you don't, Bakugo said firmly, determination matching Izuku's own. Hybrid form energy experiments. Izuku also continued experimenting with using atomic energy in hybrid form, though it was risky. In his half-hybrid state, releasing even small bursts caused sharp pain through his chest and arms, veins glowing faintly blue for minutes afterward. It was dangerous, but he needed to learn. One late evening, practicing in the backyard, he attempted a concentrated atomic punch, focusing energy into his fist before striking a reinforced block. The impact shattered the block into dust, but Izuku staggered back, clutching his hand. Inko rushed out, panic in her eyes. Izuku, you're hurting yourself. Izuku winced, holding up his glowing hand. I have to learn, Mom. What if I need to fight in this form? What if I can't transform in time? Inko knelt before him, cupping his face. Izuku, promise me you'll remember, no matter how dangerous people say you can be, you are my son, and I will love you no matter what. But please, don't destroy yourself trying to prove that. Her words struck deep, a reminder that his humanity mattered just as much as his kaiju strength. He nodded, tears mixing with sweat. 10 years old, senses evolve. By 10, Izuku's hybrid senses had sharpened to the point of near precognition. During training drills, he could predict movements before they happened. When sparring with Bakugo, he often sidestepped blows before they were thrown, leaving Bakugo growling in frustration. Damn it, Gojira, you're cheating, Izuku laughed. I can't help it. I just feel what's coming. These senses proved invaluable outside training, too. On the streets, when tensions flared between mutants and protesters, Izuku often placed himself between them before a fight even started, preventing escalation. His presence, combined with his foresight, diffused countless situations. But as his instincts grew sharper, so did the whispers. Some adults began to speak not just with fear, but with suspicion. He's too powerful, too dangerous. Izuku heard them, but he held his head high. Every act of restraint, every choice to protect rather than destroy, was his answer. The bond with Bakugo. Through these years, Bakugo remained at his side, not as a rival, but as a brother in arms. At school, when other kids whispered about Izuku, Bakugo barked at them to shut up. When Izuku nearly collapsed from training, Bakugo dragged him back to his feet. When Izuku doubted himself, Bakugo sneered and said, "Quit whining, you're Gojira, act like it." The respect was mutual. Izuku admired Bakugo's relentless drive and fiery determination, while Bakugo respected Izuku's calm strength and unwavering moral compass. They sharpened each other, like steel against steel. Closing years, ages 8 to 10. By the time Izuku turned 10, his hybrid form stood nearly 8 feet tall, his atomic blasts were more controlled, and his senses were razor sharp. He had protected dozens of mutants from bullies, protesters, and prejudice, earning quiet admiration in the community, even from those who once feared him. But he also knew the weight of expectation growing heavier. His Titan form's full potential was still untapped, and every time he pushed himself, he felt the line between strength and self-destruction blur. At night, gazing at the glowing city skyline from his bedroom window, Izuku whispered to himself, "I'll become the symbol of what mutants can be, not monsters, heroes." And deep down, he knew his next stage of growth would change everything. Haber Chapter 4, Ages 11 to 14, The Emergence of the Full Kaiju. 11 years old, Discovery of Radiation Consumption. Izuku stood in the observation room of the mutant control program, blinking at the quirk doctors as they gestured toward a monitor. Your hybrid metabolism, it can absorb ambient radiation as an energy source, one explained, adjusting their glasses. Solar, artificial, even mild radioactive exposure, it all converts into usable quirk energy. Izuku tilted his head, curious. So I could actually feed on energy sources instead of just relying on my own reserves? Exactly, another doctor said, but you must be careful. Overconsumption can overload your system, and not all radiation is safe. Controlled exposure is key. That afternoon, Izuku tested the concept in a controlled area. Standing under sunlight, he focused on drawing energy inward. A faint blue glow spread from his dorsal plates to his limbs as he felt strength surging through his hybrid body. It was exhilarating. He had effectively found a sustainable source of power for his atomic blasts and kaiju form. Bakugo watched from a safe distance, jaw tight in concentration. Damn, Gojira, that's insane. You're not just strong, you're basically a living reactor now. Izuku laughed softly. It's going to take careful practice. I don't want to hurt myself or anyone else. 12 years old, full kaiju form, refinement. By 12, Izuku's full kaiju form had grown to 12 feet tall. Where once it had been bulky and energy inefficient, the form had slimmed, shedding excess weight, becoming sleeker and more agile. His dorsal plates extended slightly, streamlined to conduct energy better, and his atomic breath had evolved into a more refined, precise weapon. Training on land became more challenging. Instructors devised obstacle courses scaled for his growing form. He practiced dodging massive mechanical projectiles, combining precognition and atomic bursts to neutralize threats safely. He also experimented with hybrid form energy use. Unlike his kaiju form, atomic blasts in hybrid form still taxed his human physiology, so he used them sparingly, often for precision work like cutting or deflecting objects during training. During one particularly grueling session, he pushed a barrage of atomic bursts against moving targets. Sweat dripped down his hybrid form, scales glimmering with exertion. Each successful hit strengthened his confidence and honed his control. Bakugo, dodging and countering as a training partner, smirked. Not bad, Gojira. You're finally starting to move like a real monster, not just look like one. Izuku grinned, feeling the pride of mastery coupled with the awareness of responsibility. Not her 13 years old, water training and heroic acts. The ocean had always been a safe haven for energy regulation, and by 13, Izuku's training in water reached new heights. He submerged fully in his full kaiju form, letting the buoyancy support his massive 15-foot frame. Atomic blasts were safer in this environment, allowing him to practice extended energy releases without burning out. It was also the year that Izuku began using his powers to protect entire groups of mutants from anti-mutant protesters on larger scales. One afternoon, near a public park, a gang of adults cornered a dozen children with mutation quirks. Izuku emerged from the tree line, dorsal plates glowing blue, eyes radiating controlled fury. "Back off," he rumbled, voice echoing like distant thunder. Bakugo stood at his side, arms crossed, glaring. "Gojira doesn't bluff. Move, or you get hurt." The adults froze, realizing that this wasn't a child to intimidate. Izuku's presence, a 15-foot kaiju with precise atomic control, was enough to halt aggression. He didn't even need to unleash full power. The subtle pulse of energy around him communicated restraint and authority. The children stared in awe, calling his name softly. Gojira. That day, Izuku understood the symbolic weight of his kaiju form. Not just raw power, but a protector figure, respected by peers and feared by aggressors. 14 years old, peak precursor to UA. By 14, Izuku's full kaiju form had matured to 20 feet tall. The transformation was sleek, fully streamlined, energy efficient, and incredibly powerful. His dorsal plates emitted a faint, constant glow, a natural aura that amplified energy absorption from sunlight and radiation. In hybrid form, atomic energy still taxed his human body, but he could now focus bursts more precisely. In full kaiju form, he could sustain large-scale atomic releases for minutes, absorbing solar and ambient radiation to fuel them. One evening, training alone in a coastal bay, Izuku submerged fully in his kaiju form. Waves lapped against his scales as he practiced combining precognition-based dodges with controlled atomic bursts. He aimed at distant targets, timing blasts perfectly with the predicted movement of the currents and floating debris. When he emerged, breathing heavily but exhilarated, Bakugo called from the cliff above. "Not bad, Gojira. You're finally starting to feel like a living weapon and a hero rolled into one." Izuku smiled, gaze fixed on the horizon. "It's not just about power anymore. I have to be precise, responsible, and protect people." That summer, he also began experimenting with consuming ambient radiation more aggressively. Small radioactive sources at training facilities allowed him to charge fully before extended exercises, further enhancing his atomic energy output. In hybrid form, the energy surge was painful but manageable. In kaiju form, it was effortless, flowing naturally through his sleek body. Kaiju form evolution summary. Age 4, 6 feet, bulky, raw energy, short bursts of atomic breath. Age 7, 8 feet, slightly more refined, longer duration transformations. Age 10, 12 feet, sleeker, improved energy control, aquatic training integrated. Age 13, 15 feet, streamlined, efficient, large-scale protective acts. Age 14, 20 feet, mature, sleek, fully optimized for energy absorption and prolonged atomic releases. Throughout these years, the kaiju form was not just a tool for combat, it was a symbol of protection and responsibility, a living manifestation of Izuku's moral and physical growth. Schmard, bond with Bakugo. Constant and steady Bakugo had been by his side since early childhood. The nickname Gojira had evolved into a term of reverence rather than mockery, representing Izuku's balance of power, restraint, and heroism. Together, they sparred, trained, and tested each other's limits. Bakugo often remarked, "You're not just a monster, Gojira. You're a hero, a real one." Izuku, in turn, relied on Bakugo's relentless drive to push himself further. He was learning that strength alone was not enough. Strategy, awareness, and moral clarity mattered just as much. Closing the ages 11 to 4 chapter. By the end of age 14, Izuku Midoriya had fully embraced his identity as a half-human, half-kaiju hybrid hero. His powers were now formidable. Full kaiju form, 20 feet, sleek, energy efficient, capable of prolonged atomic blasts. Hybrid form, agile, precise, controlled atomic energy, still taxing but manageable. Energy absorption, solar and radiation-powered quirk fueling both forms. Precognitive senses, near instant reaction to threats, allowing protective interventions. Heroism, actively defending mutants and civilians, respected by allies, feared by aggressors. As he gazed at the city skyline one evening, dorsal plates glowing softly, Izuku whispered to himself, "I'm ready. UA is next. And when the world sees me, I'll show them what heroes and mutants truly are." Bakugo stood beside him, arms crossed, smiling faintly. "I've got your back, Gojira, always." Chapter 5, 10-Month Wait. The early morning sun glinted off the waves, crashing against Dagoba Beach. The air was crisp, carrying the salty tang of the sea and the soft hum of distant gulls mixed with the occasional crash of waves against rocks. Izuku Midoriya, fully in his hybrid form, crouched among the debris washed ashore. Broken boards, scrap metal, old crates, his eyes gleamed faintly with purpose as he surveyed the scattered remnants of humanity's negligence. All right, he muttered softly, flexing his claws. Let's clean up a little and practice while we're at it. With a sweep of his tail, he gathered several pieces of scrap metal, piling them into neat stacks. Each piece was then used as a target, so if his atomic energy carefully concentrated to strike without destroying the surrounding environment. Sparks flew from his fingertips as he practiced precision bursts, sending shards of wood and metal flying into the sand. Each strike measured, controlled, deliberate. Discovery of atomic tail swing. During one particularly long session, Izuku's tail, which had grown stronger and more flexible over the years, flicked instinctively as he swung to redirect a falling piece of scrap. The motion caused a controlled release of atomic energy along the tail's length, slicing a large wooden plank in half cleanly. He froze, feeling the residual hum of energy along the spine. Wait, I can use the tail itself as a channel, he murmured. The idea sparked something new. He repeated the motion, swinging his tail in wide arcs, atomic energy coursing along its length like a glowing whip. Atomic tail swing. He practiced for hours, refining the arcs, adjusting force, and timing the energy release. By the end of the morning, his tail could slice through large debris, deflect projectiles, and even knock multiple targets down in a single swing, all while leaving him fully in control without overtaxing his hybrid form. Weaponizing dorsal plates. Later that afternoon, Inko joined him on the beach, holding a box filled with the shed dorsal plates Izuku had molted recently. Mom, can we? Izuku began, eyes lighting up as he saw the plates. Yes, Izuku, Inko said with a smile. We'll take these to the Hero Support Agency. They can turn them into something useful, weapons for you to channel your atomic power safely in your hybrid form. By evening, the plates had been transformed into specialized equipment. Sword and axe, reinforced with atomic conductors, allowing Izuku to channel energy through the blades for concentrated slashes or thrusts. Shield, capable of absorbing and reflecting low to mid-level atomic blasts, protecting his hybrid and human form alike. Armor for human parts, lightweight but strong, covering vulnerable areas to reduce strain when using hybrid atomic powers. Izuku tested each piece carefully. The sword hummed in his grip as atomic energy flowed along its length. The shield glimmered faintly as it absorbed residual sparks from his tail swing, and the armor fit snugly, moving fluidly with his hybrid body. Atomic weapon, atomic charge up. The next morning, Izuku experimented further, this time integrating all his equipment with a new concept, atomic charge up. Standing in the sand, he focused energy into the sword, axe, and shield, then concentrated it into his dorsal plates. Sparks arced between the weapons, his tail, and the plates, creating a lattice of atomic energy flowing through his hybrid form. He lunged forward, releasing the stored energy into the sword with a clean slash. The blade burned with controlled atomic power, cutting through a stack of scrap targets with ease. Then, spinning the axe, he channeled energy along its edge, scattering debris in a precise fan. Finally, the shield absorbed the residual energy, glowing faintly as it stabilized the flow, preventing recoil from overloading his body. Izuku exhaled heavily, smiling through the exertion. This works. I can use my hybrid form without hurting myself now. Bakugo, who had arrived earlier in the afternoon and had been quietly watching, let out a low whistle. Gojira, you're turning into a walking arsenal. I didn't think someone could make their powers look this damn terrifying and controlled at the same time. Izuku laughed softly, flexing his claws. It's going to take months to master, but I think I finally have a way to use my energy safely in hybrid form while keeping my kaiju form for heavy-duty situations. Training and cleanup routine. The 10-month wait to UA became a regimen for him. Every day he, 1, cleansed the beach, using hybrid strength to gather debris while simultaneously practicing atomic bursts. 2, practiced tail swings, refining the newly discovered atomic tail swing, testing arcs, force, and energy control. 3, weapon drills, using sword, axe, and shield to integrate atomic energy safely into hybrid combat. 4, charge-up exercises, Learning to channel energy between dorsal plates, weapons, and tail for optimal output. 5. Strength and agility, maintaining human hybrid balance, keeping endurance high without overtaxing his body. The work was grueling, but Izuku thrived on it. The beach became both his training ground and his sanctuary, a place to meditate, refine skills, and push limits without distractions. Progress and mastery. By the fifth month of waiting, Izuku had developed fluidity with the atomic tail swing, combining it with atomic-powered strikes from his sword and axe. His armor allowed him to execute moves in hybrid form that previously would have exhausted him in minutes. His kaiju form, now nearly 20 feet tall, could be deployed at a moment's notice, but the hybrid form weapon integration allowed him to act in human-sized environments without collateral damage, crucial for protecting civilians or mutant children from sudden threats. Bakugo, standing on the cliffs overlooking Dagobah Beach, shook his head in awe. I swear, Gojira, you've gone from scary to utterly unstoppable and controlled too. Not a single thing about you is sloppy anymore. Izuku smirked. It's not just me. It's the training, the weight, and having someone who pushes me like you. Bakugo grinned, crossing his arms. Don't get soft on me. We still have 10 months before UA. Plenty of time to make you even more dangerous. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Izuku stood on the sand, dorsal plates glowing faintly, tail swishing with controlled energy, sword and shield gleaming at his sides. He surveyed the beach, cleaned of debris, yet transformed into a perfect training ground. Every swing, every atomic pulse, every absorbed radiation particle had brought him closer to mastery. I'll be ready, he whispered to himself, eyes fixed on the distant city skyline. UA is next, and when I arrive, I'll show the world what a kaiju can do. Controlled, powerful, heroic. Bakugo shouted from the cliffs, a grin on his face. That's right, Gojira, and I'll be there to make sure you don't screw it up. Let's see what you've really got. Izuku smiled faintly, feeling the weight and thrill of the next chapter approaching. The 10-month wait had been long, but every day, every swing, and every charged pulse had sharpened him into something more than a boy, more than a hybrid. He was becoming a weapon of justice, a living symbol of what mutants and heroes could be. And with that, Dagobah Beach, glowing with the final rays of sunlight, was silent except for the gentle hum of atomic energy waiting to be. Chapter 6, UA Entrance Exam. The morning air was crisp at UA Academy's training grounds, the wide expanse filled with practice arenas, observation platforms, and zones marked for entrance exam candidates. Izuku Midoriya, now 14 and fully trained, stood at the edge of the exam site. His hybrid form, fully equipped with his armor, sword, and shield, shimmered faintly as atomic energy hummed along his dorsal plates. Beside him, Bakugo, grinning, arms crossed, tapped impatiently. Remember, Gojira, Bakugo said, smirking, don't go soft just because they're robots. This is a test. You dominate. Izuku nodded. Right. Let's start. The first portion of the exam was deceptively calm. Each candidate sat at a desk in a spacious room, facing sheets detailing hero regulations, rules of conduct, and hypothetical quirk scenarios. Questions range from the theoretical, open quote, you encounter a villain who has immobilized civilians using a quirk that nullifies movement. What non-lethal method would you use to neutralize the threat? Close quote, to the practical, quirk-centric, open quote, a collapsing building traps a child. Your quirk can destroy surrounding debris, but doing so risks destabilizing the structure. How do you act? Close quote, Izuku's pen moved quickly, detailing precise methods. Atomic energy for controlled demolitions, energy absorption to stabilize weak structures, and careful prioritization to minimize risk to civilians. Beside him, Bakugo scowled, muttering as he scribbled his answers in fiery strokes. Izuku glanced at him, smirked, and returned to his own methodical responses. The written portion was just a warm-up, a mental rehearsal for what awaited in the practical zones. Practical exam, robots galore. With the written test behind them, candidates were led to their respective zones, each filled with mechanical villains designed for combat points. Zones were labeled with 1, 2, 3-point robots, and towering over all, a 0-pointer, a 40-foot tall mechanical menace, twice the size of Izuku's full kaiju form. Izuku stepped into his zone, eyes scanning the metallic battlefield. Scrap robots littered the area, some 1-pointers for warm-ups, others 3-pointers designed to challenge coordination and control. He exhaled, feeling the hum of energy in his dorsal plates. All right, let's see what this test wants. The robots moved aggressively, but Izuku was ready. He swung his atomic tail swing, cutting through one-pointers with precise arcs. His sword and axe, charged with atomic energy, shattered two-pointers efficiently, siphoning excess energy to replenish his reserves. When he encountered a three-pointer, a heavily armored robot with multiple limbs, he activated atomic charge-up, channeling energy through sword, shield, and dorsal plates simultaneously. Each strike pulsed with controlled atomic force, smashing the robot to pieces while minimizing energy loss. Saving people and lending weapons. Among the chaos, Izuku noticed a smaller candidate struggling against a mid-tier robot. The boy's purple hair glinted under the sunlight as he tried to lift a broken piece of rubble, but failed. Izuku sprinted over, slicing through the robot's metallic limbs with atomic tail swing, then handed the boy a sword and shield charged with his atomic energy. "Take these," Izuku said calmly, kneeling slightly. "Channel the energy carefully. You'll be able to defend yourself and help." The boy's eyes widened. "Thank you. My name's Shinzo." Izuku nodded once. "Use it wisely." Shinzo gripped the weapons, his confidence boosted instantly by the energy flowing through them. The zero-pointer, iconic roar. Suddenly, the ground trembled. A massive shadow loomed overhead. The zero-pointer had entered his zone, moving with mechanical precision toward a trapped girl, Ochako, pinned beneath rubble. Izuku's dorsal plates flared, the atomic energy flowing like liquid fire. He stepped forward, his kaiju form still at 20 feet, body sleek and poised. He inhaled deeply, letting out an iconic, thunderous roar that echoed across the training grounds. The air vibrated with controlled power, warning the zero-pointer and inspiring nearby candidates. Time slowed in his perception. He activated atomic charge up, energy streaming through his kaiju body into his dorsal plates, tail, and hybrid weapons. Every pulse of energy was focused, calibrated, precise. Then he charged forward slowly, eyes locked on the towering machine. Atomic beam fired from his mouth, slicing cleanly through the zero-pointer's chest. Sparks and smoke erupted, metal screaming as energy coursed through its circuits. The robot staggered, its massive limbs thrashing. Izuku followed with atomic tail swing and sword strikes, siphoning the remaining energy to prevent it from exploding uncontrollably. With a final concentrated atomic beam, the zero-pointer collapsed in a storm of sparks and smoke, destroyed. Ochako scrambled out from the rubble, brushing sand from her hair. Thank you. I'm Ochako," she said breathlessly. Izuku nodded. "You're safe now." Bakugo, arriving moments later from his own zone, smirked. "Not bad, Gojira. Took down a 40-footer and didn't blow the whole place up. Classic." Post-exam, sharing experiences. After the exam, the candidates regrouped to share what happened in their respective zones. Izuku, Bakugo, Shinzo, and Ochako formed a small cluster. Shinzo waved, holding the sword Izuku had lent him. "I wouldn't have made it without you, Gojira. Seriously." Bakugo crossed his arms, glaring at Shinzo. "He's Gojira. He doesn't hand out victories lightly." Ochako smiled at Izuku. I really owe you. I didn't know someone could be that careful and powerful at the same time." Izuku's dorsal plates glimmered faintly as he adjusted his sword on his back. "We all have to protect each other. That's what heroes do. You'll get stronger too." Bakugo smirked. Yeah, let's compare notes. Zone reports first, Gojira." Izuku and Bakugo began discussing their zones, strategies, and observations, sharing insights about robot movement patterns, energy management, and situational control. Ochako and Shinzo listened, taking mental notes, inspired by their kaiju-sized ally. For the first time, Izuku felt the full weight and thrill of being recognized as a hero in training, not just a hybrid or a monster. And as the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across UA's training grounds, Izuku realized that this was only the beginning. Chapter 7, First Day. The morning sun stretched over Musutafu, gilding the rows of buildings in warm light. For most, it was just another day. For Izuku Midoriya, it was the first step into the world he dreamed of since he was a toddler. UA High School stood before him, towering and sharp-edged, its gates like an open challenge. Even at a distance, the campus felt alive, humming with energy. Hopeful students streamed through the main road, their voices blending into a steady, eager buzz. Izuku adjusted the strap on his tailored uniform jacket. The dark fabric sat snugly against his tall hybrid frame, specially cut to allow for his dorsal fins to pierce neatly through reinforced openings. His tail flicked behind him in slow, measured movements, the fabric reinforced around the base so it wouldn't tear. On his body, the standard UA uniform looked less like a school outfit and more like a uniform of command, something that signaled weight. As he walked toward the main building, conversations around him faltered. Damn, he's huge. Are those scales? Wait, is he a mutant type? He looks like some kind of kaiju. Most didn't linger, just glances, quick whispers, plah, and nervous chuckles, but Izuku felt the eyes. He had grown used to them, respect wrapped in unease, awe tethered to fear. He inhaled deeply, steadying himself. I'm not here to scare people. I'm here to prove I can be a hero. Class 1A's door loomed ahead, taller and broader than most to accommodate students with non-human quirks. Izuku slid it open, ducking slightly through the frame, and found nearly 20 students already gathered. Conversations halted mid-sentence. Eyes locked onto him. The room hushed. Izuku wasn't just tall, he commanded space. His hybrid form stood head and shoulders over most of his classmates. His dorsal fins caught the light as they rose from his back, glowing faintly with residual energy. His tail shifted once before settling in a coil behind him. Even in silence, he radiated power. The first to break the tension was Bakugo. Took you long enough, damn lizard. He smirked, arms crossed. But unlike years ago, there was no malice. It was sharp, competitive respect. Don't think walking in late means you've already won. The corner of Izuku's mouth tugged upward. Wouldn't dream of it, Kachan. Some of the class exhaled in relief. If Bakugo, the one with the loudest temper, could speak to Izuku like that, then maybe the towering mutant wasn't the monster he looked like. Still, the whispers rolled softly. Is he really in our class? He looks like he belongs in the support course building, not here. Scary, but kinda awesome. One boy with a tail approached, calm and curious. His demeanor contrasted sharply with the uncertainty of the others. You're Midoriya, right? He asked, voice respectful. That quirk of yours is incredible. I'm Mashirao Ojiro. Honestly, he chuckled lightly. I'd be lying if I said I didn't wish I had something like that. Izuku blinked, momentarily caught off guard by the straightforward respect. His expression softened. Thanks, but every quirk has its drawbacks. Yours looks strong too. You'll probably surprise a lot of people. Ojiro smiled, then stepped back as other students slowly began re-engaging in their own conversations. The ice had cracked. Izuku made his way to a desk near the middle. The reinforced chair creaked under his weight, but it held. He folded his claws together, waiting. The door slammed open. I'm your homeroom teacher, Shota Aizawa. The man looked like he had rolled straight out of a sleeping bag. His eyes, half-lidded and unimpressed, swept the room before lingering briefly on Izuku. No visible reaction, just a flicker, then gone. Change into your PE uniforms. We're going outside. Whispers rose again, confused, until Aizawa added flatly, Orientation is pointless. We're doing a quirk apprehension test. If you want to be heroes, you'll prove it. Minutes later, Class 1A stood on the training field. The air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of dew. Izuku's uniform had been exchanged for his training suit, similarly modified for his frame and dorsal plates. Aizawa explained the rules briskly. A series of tests, each designed to measure physical and quirk capabilities. The student who placed last would be expelled. Murmurs rose immediately. Expulsion? On the first day? Aizawa ignored the protests. His eyes flicked toward Izuku. Midoriya, you're first. He tossed him a ball. How far can you throw with your quirk? Izuku turned the ball over in his hand, feeling its weight. What's the ball made of? Can it take anything? It's reinforced. Don't hold back. Izuku nodded. His classmates whispered louder now, curious, nervous. He stepped forward. Blue light rippled faintly along his dorsal fins as he exhaled, body expanding, skin shifting, muscles tightening. In seconds, his hybrid form gave way to something larger, heavier, his kaiju form towering above the class. 20 feet tall, scales glistening under the sunlight, the ground trembled as he moved. Gasps erupted. He's massive. That's a transformation quirk? No, it's something else. Bakugo's lips curved in a feral grin. Now we're talking. Izuku held the ball delicately between two claws, then lifted it to his mouth. His dorsal plates lit up in sequence, to suggest a haunting hum vibrating through the air. The ball glowed faintly as he charged his atomic energy. Then he fired. A beam of blinding blue light engulfed the ball, propelling it like a comet across the sky. It vanished from sight. The students shaded their eyes, waiting. Seconds stretched. Then a beep sounded on Aizawa's device. 8,212 meters. His voice was flat, but his eyebrows had risen a fraction. The class erupted. What? 8,000! That's insane. Izuku lowered himself back to hybrid form, steam rising from his skin. He exhaled heavily, the ground scorched where energy had leaked. That's the standard I expect, Aizawa said simply. Next. The following tests became a duel. In the 50-meter dash, Bakugo exploded forward, chaining blasts from his hands, narrowly edging out Izuku's longer strides. He turned with a sharp grin. Ha! Beat that lizard! Izuku chuckled, rolling his shoulders. That one test doesn't decide it all, Kachan. In grip strength, Izuku crushed the machine with a number so high the display glitched, earning a low whistle from some classmates. Bakugo growled, blasting the ground in irritation. In long jump, Izuku's kaiju legs launched him easily across the entire pit. Bakugo followed with explosions, managing to clear it too, but the gap was clear. Test after test, the two remained locked in a push-pull rivalry. Bakugo burned with competitive fire. Izuku matched it with calm, deliberate control. The rest of the class could only watch in awe as the two titans set the bar higher and higher. When the last test ended, Aizawa gathered them. The scoreboard blinked to life. First place, Izuku Midoriya. Second place, Katsuki Bakugo. Gasps echoed. Izuku stood quietly, claws folded, as Bakugo clenched his fists, jaw tight but eyes burning with determination. And at the very bottom, last place, Aizawa said, voice devoid of hesitation. Minoru Mineta, you're expelled. The short boy froze, face draining of color. No chance to argue. No time to plead. Aizawa turned his back, already walking toward the main building. The class stood in stunned silence, the weight of UA's reality crashing down on them. Later that afternoon, the students were gathered once more, this time with Principal Nezu and several staff members present. Nezu's cheerful voice carried across the training ground. Midoriya, there's something I'd like you to demonstrate for the sake of your classmates and our staff. We've prepared a unique challenge. Several large reinforced containers were wheeled out, humming faintly. Radiation warning symbols gleamed across their surfaces. Izuku's eyes widened. Radiation? Nezu's smile only widened. To support your quirk during your time here, consider this a gift and a test. The class watched in uneasy silence as Izuku approached the first container. With a steady breath, he opened it. Particles of energy swirled upward. Instantly, Izuku's dorsal plates flared, greedily pulling the radiation in. His body began to glow faintly, energy coursing through every vein. By the second container, his hybrid form struggled to contain it. His skin cracked with lines of green light. By the third, he could no longer hold back. His body expanded violently, shifting upward, growing taller, 30 feet, then 45, until his kaiju form towered like a skyscraper over the field. His dorsal plates glowed an eerie, pulsating green instead of their usual blue, each hum vibrating like a war drum. The ground quaked beneath his weight. His eyes burned emerald fire. Class 1A could only gape. Some backed away instinctively. Others stood frozen in awe. Remarkable, Nezu murmured. He raised a paw. A massive gate opened at the far end of the field. From within emerged a zero-pointer robot, double the size of the one used in the entrance exams. Its armor gleamed thicker, reinforced. This one is 10 times stronger than before, Nezu announced, voice chipper. Let's see how our kaiju handles it. Izuku turned, massive claws digging into the earth. His dorsal fins lit up in sequence, each plate shimmering with blinding green energy. The air itself seemed to vibrate with the charge. The hum rose into a screeching crescendo. Students clapped hands over their ears. Then, he roared. The iconic kaiju bellow shook the very bones of those present. Birds scattered for miles. Windows rattled. And then came the blast. A column of nuclear green fire tore through the air, engulfing the zero-pointer's torso. The robot's armor held for a heartbeat, then split apart as molten metal erupted outward. The beam punched a hole clean through its chest, lancing into the sky. Clouds above scattered violently, a hole burning in the heavens. When the light faded, the zero-pointer collapsed, its entire midsection obliterated. Izuku exhaled steam rising from his maw. Slowly, the glow receded. His massive form shrank, energy spent until he returned to his hybrid body, sweating, breathing hard, but standing tall. The silence that followed was deafening. Then one voice whispered, "That was unreal." Another followed, He's like a walking natural disaster." But amid the awe and fear, a new tone lingered, respect. Nezu clapped his tiny paws together. "Excellent, a dazzling display of power, Midoriya. Truly a student worthy of UA." Izuku swallowed, nodding. "Thank you, but I still have a lot to learn. Power alone won't make me a hero." Aizawa's scarf shifted as the teacher regarded him quietly. His eyes softened, just slightly. The rest of the class remained silent, the image of Izuku's kaiju form seared into their memories. None doubted now that their year would be unlike any other. And as the sun began to set over UA's campus, Izuku Midoriya, the boy with the soul of a hero and the body of a monster, took his first true step into the life he had always dreamed of. End of chapter 7, first day. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss a new video. This ends part 1 of What If Izuku Had the Powers of the King of the Monsters, Godzilla. This is the very first video on my channel, so your support means a lot. And stay tuned because part 2 is coming soon. See you in the next one.